In Reactor, you can create tests that address a range of potential research questions when developing new packaging. Each question can be translated into a different type of test or tests. For example, how easy is a pack design to find against competitors on shelf would be a findability test. How emotionally attractive is a pack design, and does it automatically communicate the desired feelings and meanings would be an implicit image test. How important are the individual graphical elements on a design, and what feelings and meanings does each trigger would also equal an implicit image test. How important are the individual graphical elements on a design in terms of allowing the pack to be found on shelf would equal a findability test that uses the individual graphical elements, and we would call this application of a findability test a distinctive assets findability test. How much of a natural fit to your brand is the pack design would be a fit to brand implicit test. And the more complex questions around a pack design that require consideration by consumers can be handled via a fast choice test or by survey questions. Findability tests are designed to measure how easy it is for participants to find your pack design within a range of other packs, typically competitor designs, but they could also include other SKUs from your brand. Typically, a findability test repeatedly shows in a random shuffled sequence one array of pack designs at a time, each array preceded by an instruction of which pack to look for. When the array appears, the participant will have to search for the pack, then click on it when they find it. You can limit the amount of time that the participants have to find the pack. For example, under 5 seconds would be a typical length. One instance of an instruction to find, followed by the array, is called a trial. Within one findability test, around 30 trials would be typical, but you could have a greater or lesser number. If you simply want to know how findable your pack is compared to competitors, then it's relatively simple. You create a number of arrays of pack designs. Each array contains the same packs, but they are just in different positions in each array. This is to ensure that participants don't simply learn the positions. Each pack design that you are asking people to find should be moved around an equal amount. For example, if you are asking people to find Coke in some trials and Pepsi in others, you may want to ensure that you had arrays in which both Coke and Pepsi were in the top, centre and bottom rows. If you're testing the relative findability of different alternative designs, then you will firstly create several, for example 3 sets of arrays with your current pack design, and then you will replicate the exact same arrays with each of your new designs. One thing to be aware of is that unavoidably, as you will use the same competitor packs surrounding your current packs and in the equivalent arrays with your new pack designs, participants will inevitably see these competitor pack designs more than any one version of your designs. So when asking people to find a competitor pack, be aware that it's possible that the competitors could have an advantage just from being seen more frequently within the test. Usually, Reactor users creating findability tests would decide which range of packs to include based on 2 considerations. Firstly, what are the typical packs that your new designs would be competing for attention with on shelf? And secondly, how many facings can you display in the array on the screen and still keep the designs large enough so that you can reasonably expect participants to be able to read enough of the text on the design to be sure it's the one that you've asked them to find. For example, if you ask people to find Acme Raspberry Diet Cola and you had to shrink the packs down to such a small size in order to fit them in the display that even the word Acme was just about clear, the smaller font of Raspberry Diet Cola underneath was too small to be read, then you wouldn't have a fair test. Yet equally, you probably want to ensure that you have enough facings so that the task isn't too easy, so that everyone can find the pack with no effort. Therefore, building your array of pack image facings for findability tests requires some thought and consideration. It can also be helpful to mock up your array first, perhaps using slide software like PowerPoint that would allow you to easily arrange and resize the images so that you can experiment to figure out how many facings would make sense to include in the array. Other considerations include, typically if you are assessing several new design options, you would want to only display one design option at a time in the arrays. After all, if you aren't launching multiple design options, then they will never be seen together or have to compete for attention on shelf together. Similarly, you would probably want to show your current packs in a separate array from any new designs. For each design option, it needs to be displayed in the same position so that you display both your current pack and your other new design options so that in a way that you're comparing like for like. You may also want to ask participants to find one or more of your competitor packs so that you get some additional example results to compare with. You will need to decide how many facings of each SKU you include. A simple design might have one facing of each SKU. However, if it's more important to try to replicate different weightings of facings that would typically be seen on shelf, then you could also do that. Now we'll take a look at an example of a findability test. The main metrics for findability are accuracy with which each pack was correctly found, as a percentage of the find trials, and the average speed with which it was correctly found in milliseconds. In the first instance, you should compare the percentage accuracy with which each design was found, and then look at the speed of finding. A faster speed is good, but ultimately might be less important if only a minority of people find it accurately. One way to look at your results is in the form of a scatter plot, with the x-axis representing time to find and the y-axis representing percentage accuracy. With the x-axis of time to find inverted, so that the faster the time, the further along the scale to the right you go. The top right of the scatter plot would represent the designs that were both most accurately found and found fastest, i.e. the optimum position to be in. Conversely, the bottom left of the scatter plot would be the weakest position, representing the slowest and least accurately found of the designs. Running an implicit image test with pack designs can address the question, what feelings or ideas do my designs automatically trigger? It can be helpful if you consider which feelings or ideas might be critical to triggering a desire to purchase your product. For one product, it might simply be tastiness. For another, it might be the notion of high quality. For another, it might be natural. You can also use more generic, encompassing attributes like I want, for me, or simply positive. Reactor users also run implicit image tests on pack designs, not to necessarily attempt to directly predict their potential sales, but to answer the more indirect question, does this pack design communicate the right things? Does it align with your brand's values or consumers' expectations for your product? In addition to measuring the automatic connection between a pack design and a word, you can also measure its connection to the brand. Instead of the attribute word polls, you can use your brand, represented either as a word or a visual logo, as one poll, and a direct competitor brand as an opposing poll. Of course, the limitation to this design is that it's setting up a very specific comparison. Typically, an implicit image test using pack designs would include all your designs, including your current pack design if you have one, and possibly even one or two of your competitors for comparison. If you have a greater combined number of packs and attributes than can be handled in one test, the rule of thumb is that you keep all your pack designs in every test, but split out your attributes across tests. It's better that all participants see all the designs. A simple front-on 2D image of each pack design can be loaded into the reactor test. You could also run additional or alternative tests that show the sides or backs of packs if you wanted, as long as all the pack images within one test are at the same angle. And here is an example of an implicit image test with pack designs. Eye tracking can be done on pack designs to understand how consumers view each pack. You can define areas of interest, or AOIs, on the pack design by drawing around the different visual elements on the pack, and then the results will tell you 1. The average time to first fixation on that AOI, in other words, how long on average before a person looks at that area, 2. The percentage of people who look at each AOI, and 3. The average dwell time on each AOI. You also can get a flow path which shows the order of which areas on average get looked at first, second, and so on. You also get a heat map, which is an overlay version of the image with the most viewed areas shown by warmer colours. Eye tracking tests can be useful for answering questions around whether the most important areas are looked at early on or don't get seen until later, and whether they get a comparatively larger or smaller percentage of people looking at them. If people aren't looking at important areas on the pack, or take a while before they look at them, then it can be useful to know, or to abandon the design, or to rework it. Another use for eye tracking on packs is to see if a non-critical area, such as a nutritional panel for example, might be getting too much attention. By comparing the eye tracking results of each pack design, you can evaluate their comparative strengths and weaknesses. Fast choice questions may be useful as alternatives to implicit response when you want to measure the pack against a quality that can't be directly expressed in only one or two words, or isn't something that you would necessarily reasonably expect to be an automatic association, and instead require a bit of consideration on behalf of the participants. For example, the following would be examples of qualities that might make a good implicit measure: high quality, tasty, for me, I want, natural. All of these terms are only one or two words each and are very singular concepts. Alternatively, the following qualities are either only expressed in longer terms or would require consideration of more than one piece of information in order to arrive at a judgment. For example, if you were on a diet, would you buy this product? If priced at under $5, would this be good value? Would this product inspire you to cook more? Would you be proud to be seen using this product? Is this product healthy but tasty? These sorts of evaluations would be more suited to a fast choice test. A fast choice test may also be used to measure the same sort of simple singular qualities as an implicit test if you're happy to forego the extra features and controls of an implicit test, for example the baseline and the fact that participants can't randomly speed their way through an implicit test. One benefit of running these sorts of attributes in a fast choice test is that you are able to measure more attribute associations within the same period of time. In a fast choice test, you can use the quality and its opposite as your poles, just as in an implicit test. Alternatively, you can pose a question, such as those mentioned before, in the instructions that immediately precede the exercise, and even have that question appear continuously at the top of the screen during the exercise. Under this test design, the poles can simply be yes and no.